All right, welcome to another edition of the Deals for Dentists podcast. And today we're joined by Charles Biami, and he is the co-owner and chief marketing officer of Driven Dental Marketing. Charles, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So you can go to dealsfordentists.com and you can find their promo offer, which is get a free strategy session, which has a $400 value. And then also they're offering a $500 credit off your first month if it's a good fit. So awesome. Charles, tell me all about Driven Dental Marketing and how you help dentists.
Yeah. Well, so the high level is we help doctors attract and convert high value patients, in particular, patients looking for dental implants. And actually, we just launched a new program that helps doctors focused on sleep dentistry or airway marketing, which are also high value patients. And so these patients, as most doctors know, they're different. They've got different decision criteria. The treatment that they're looking for is a little bit more complex. It's definitely more expensive. They've got a lot more questions, and they just need a little bit more attention and care. And so that means we can't reach out to them the same as every other patient. And so we have a specialized program that targets these patients that we know are actively searching for this type of treatment. It's a special marketing campaign designed to attract them. And then we hand those people off to the practice and coach the teams on how to communicate with these new patient inquiries so they show up to the practice with the right mindset and they're most likely to accept treatment. And we've got a lot of different details about how we support practices and actually converting the leads. So it's a combination of a marketing campaign and a coaching and consulting campaign to help you actually get the return on investment that you're looking for.
Now, what is a virtual patient advocate?
So a virtual patient advocate came out, it solves a very unique problem that a lot of practices discover once they start marketing for these high value patients. And that is, like I said, they require a lot more extra time and attention. And it starts from the very first phone call. These patients have questions that they need to get answered before they're ready to come in. But a lot of them may not be right for our chair time right now. So we need to also kind of screen and qualify and vet the patients, make sure they have a true understanding of what they're getting into. And most importantly, that they have the means to accept treatment and the ability to pay for it and move forward if they like what they hear. And so that takes time. And if you're in a busy practice, your admin team is probably already, overloaded with the activities that they're doing. And so a virtual patient advocate takes the work of following up with the leads off of your team's plate. And we actually do that for you. These are dental professionals. They've come from dental practices. They've spoken with dental patients. They understand the dental office environment, and they understand the treatments that these patients are looking for. So they know how to talk to the patients. They're following all of our best practices. They're using a system to manage the leads that makes their work very efficient. And they're doing the work for the practices and following up with all the leads that are generated from the campaign. Essentially, what they do is they help educate so the patients have a better understanding of the treatment. They discuss pricing at a high level so that there's no sticker shock when patients show up. And most importantly, they're actually going to pre-screen and pre-qualify them for the ability to pay. So patients walk into the office with a plan of how they're going to pay for treatment and fit this into your lifestyle. So that means, there's no more wasted time, and practices are spending that valuable chair time with patients that are most likely ready to move forward with treatment.
That's such a good point because, when we're, answering their phones, or let's say we put an ad out, a billboard or a radio ad or, social media post, I'm really just taking a consult with anyone. And that could be a total waste of my time for half an hour. If A, they're not a good candidate, B, they can't afford it, or, C, they just weren't educated on the whole implant process. So that could easily be a wasted half hour of our time, and our time is our most precious asset. So are you essentially acting like an extension of our front desk? So when this patient calls, you're kind of acting like the front desk, and then from there, if they seem like a good fit and they're qualified and screened, then they're scheduled for a consult with me?
100%. This is not like a referral campaign that we're advertising to the general marketplace and then just, giving the patients a list of different doctors. This is a campaign specifically for the practice. We technically become surrogates for, for your admin team and for your doctor, and we explain all the reasons why your practice is the best for implants in the marketplace. The reasons why they need to, come to your practice right now, whether it's your technology, your expertise, or your patient care, whatever is unique. We definitely are positioning ourselves as part of the team, speaking on behalf of the practice, and the only place these leads are coming are directly into the practice for you. This is not, we're not divvying up the leads for other places. So the virtual patient advocates are positioning themselves as, they let the patients know that they're not in the office physically, but they are part of the team.
Mm-hmm. And so you're also reviewing financing with them. So, let's say they have no insurance. They could come in, they could be a great candidate. They could be actually very well educated on implants, but then I tell them it's $5,000, and then it all just falls apart from there. So you're actually going over all of that with them and telling them costs, um, uh, and approving them for financing. Is that how it
Yes,
works?
so there's a couple things that are the practices that are most successful need to do before we run the campaign, and one of those is have financial options in place. If
Mm-hmm.
you are marketing for implants and you see these patients in your chair, you probably know by now that cost is the number one barrier that keeps patients from saying yes to treatment. Well, it's going to be the practice's responsibility to sit on the same side of the table as the patient and help them figure this problem out. You've got to bring the solutions to them. And so you want to have financial options in your practice. And Care Credit is a great option. It's the one that most practices have, but it isn't enough when it comes to having solutions for implant patients. And here's why. Most of these patients, there's some type of credit challenge or income challenge. They need a lot of work, and so we need financial solutions that can approve at a lower credit score, so we can get more of these patients actually access to the funds they need. We need longer terms so we can spread the cost out over a longer period of time and reduce the number of payments. We also need higher loan amounts because this is obviously an expensive treatment. We need to be able to finance more than $5,000. We need to be able to go to 10, 20, 30, or sometimes, even $40,000. We've got access to lenders that can go up to $60,000 for treatment. So you need all those things: high loan amounts, longer terms, and low credit scores, so that more of your patients who don't have the cash sitting in the bank right now can actually finance this stuff and get access and say yes to treatment. So,
Yeah,
Driven actually hooks you up. Once you become part of our client network, we actually give you a list of the people that we know have worked best and are proven, and we help you get set up with them so you can easily integrate it into your practice.
as far as financing goes, you have a list that you
Yes.
recommend for. Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I heard that with Care Credit, they don't approve like 40% of the uh, patient treatment because of maybe poor credit rating or it's too high of amount. Have you heard the same?
Yes, I mean, Care Credit can be a little conservative, but just credit in general. I mean, you're looking at, the average approval rates are going to typically be in the high 600s for credit score. But if
Mm-hmm.
you look at stats about, what does the general population have? I mean, that's going to cut out at least 50% of the people. There's a lot of people that are below that threshold and they need other options. Now, this doesn't mean that they are bad patients or that they just don't know how to manage their money. Maybe they haven't built up a credit history, or maybe there's just been one or two things recently that have caused some problems that they need to go fix, and they just don't have the scores right now. It doesn't mean that they don't have the ability to pay. It just means that they don't have the ability to get finance. So
Mm-hmm.
there's people out there that have good incomes, that have resources. They just need different structure so that they can actually say yes. And so that's what I'm saying. The practice needs to sit down with the patient, really truly understand their financial situation, and not just put it on them to figure it out, but actually be part of their team and offer solutions. That's how you're going to be able to get more of your patients to say yes than not.
And then also, do you help us with verbiage, like a way to present to the patient that, okay, we can do this implant. It's $5,000, or we can break it up through financing into monthly payments, and that can be a lot more attractive or palpable for patients, especially for these big ticket items like
Yes.
sleep devices, implants, clear aligners. These are big ticket items, and some patients can't just drop $5,000 to $8,000, and they need to spread it out over monthly payments.
100%. I mean, just think about what the average savings rate is. I think patients right now, actually, with all of the different stimulus packages and things that have been going on, there's a lot more cash out there than has been available recently. But typically, most patients aren't coming in with stacks of cash in the bank. And once you start getting over that $3,000 to $5,000 mark, it's going to be difficult for a lot of people to just come in and just pay outright for it. So you need to have financial options in place. Um, but how do you explain that investment and make sure that the patients are excited to make it and feel like they're really getting some value? That comes down to your verbal skills. And so we definitely coach with that. Driven has partnered with some of the best consultants and key opinion leaders in the industry to really get some of the best language out there. We learn a ton from our active clients who are really successful at closing these cases and pay attention to what they do. So every time they have a success, we kind of break it down, and we're able to share the best practices that we've learned from dentists who are actually in the trenches doing this every day successfully. We're able to share that with all of our clients. And so we definitely can share language, scripts, what does that ideal patient experience look like once they come into the practice? All of that is part of the resources that we share with our clients when they sign up with us.
Yeah, and I think that's extremely important, especially for a dentist that is just adding implants to their practice. Um, do you work with both experienced implant dentists and people that are just getting into the
Yes.
implant game?
100%. And I would invite both types of doctors to give us a call and just, have a strategy session, because the truth is, depending on what your clinical confidence is, how you approach marketing for implant patients might be different.
Yeah.
And, what we have discovered, there's definitely different segments in the implant patient market. You've got your single implant patients, those multiple teeth replacements. There's, denture solutions, whether it's a removable overdenture or permanent overdenture. And then you got your full arch solutions. Now, each of those have totally different price points, totally different levels of complexity in terms of delivering the treatment. And so you've got to be able to talk to all those patients, and your clinical skill set may kind of determine whether you focus on one segment of patients or not. And so you really want to customize this approach to match your practice and the type of patient that you want. And we can help you figure that out. But the bottom line is, you absolutely need to have a communication plan about how you're presenting this treatment. And it's not just the doctor's verbal skills, it's your entire team. So the assistant and the hygienist as well, they can be key team players that can help identify implant opportunities from your existing patient base. So your whole team needs to really be focused on implants or high value dentistry and how to talk about it if you want to be successful.
It's so true. And you can't be the only one.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm the dentist and I want to get into implants. I can't be the only one that knows about this. You have to get the whole staff on board. Everyone needs to be educated with the verbal skills and understand what implants are and how they can, help patients. Really just explain everything so that they can have a good conversation with the patient. But it's funny you mentioned, you're so right that implants, it's like three different animals. You have like, I'm in a family practice and my implants are like 95% onesies, twosies.
Yeah.
And then you're right. You have the other side of things, which could be really that high end boutique all on four. Or you're targeting edentulous patients that have a denture and aren't happy with it, and they need some more stability. So these are like three different distinct areas of implants. So as a dentist, we need to know we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and decide what we're all about. And then from there, we can create a good marketing strategy. Is that right?
100%. And that's exactly where you should start, is to kind of create a vision for what does your implant practice look like. And that's different from a lot of different doctors. Some doctors, what they want is to move away from the traditional just drill and fill dentistry and the stuff that, after you've been practicing for a while can get pretty tedious and boring. And you want to do something that is going to be more inspirational and more challenging and more impactful to your patients. Implants is it. Also more profitable to your practice. So Some doctors would totally want to move away from regular stuff. Maybe they want to hire an associate, keep them busy with that, and really focus on the implant stuff. So that's one version of it. Some doctors just want to kind of incorporate that into the rest of their regular dentistry. And maybe they also want to focus on doing ortho and sleep and some of the other high value stuff. And implants is just part of their service mix. However, if it's a new piece, you definitely need to give that the time and attention it deserves to really kind of get to a stabilized, process within your practice. And that means you need to focus on it for a good amount of time, and then you can move on to other stuff. So you need to have a plan there. Or you could be like some of the doctors where they're building their entire practice only around this stuff and actually moving away from doing that totally, all the other types of dentistry, and they're just focusing on the high value stuff. That's a different approach. And you can then afford to spend more time in consultations and educating patients and following up and doing all these things because you just have more time available. You're not trying to do so much other stuff. So each different vision for what an implant practice looks like has its own path to success. The cool thing is we've worked with pretty much all the doctors in all the different ways. So we know what works, and we also know what kind of roadblocks and pitfalls are along the way for those different things. And we can help you avoid that stuff.
Yeah, implants are in my wheelhouse, and I've been doing them since, I went to a residency at BU, and I've been doing them since '02. But I'm going through this whole process now with clear aligners and starting to add airway and sleep apnea. So I'm going through it, and I get it. It's especially for a dentist that's adding implants. I know exactly what you're going through, because now I have to train the staff on clear aligners and sleep apnea. So we're adding these new modalities, and it's a lot of work. But you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to talk to the patients. Set the time aside for these consultations. Be ready with the verbiage, the financing. But I find adding these high value items to your practice is like rejuvenation to the office. It's like,
Yes.
I love doing implants, and I do my own guides, and I find it to be the most stress-free procedure and an enjoyable procedure that I do. And it's also very rewarding. But now I'm super excited about adding clear aligners and sleep. So by adding these extra treatments, especially the high value, it's such a great way to kind of reinvigorate yourself and re-energize the staff and the patients. So I think that's really cool that you're really helping these dentists out getting started with it.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that 100% it can be reinvigorating to you as a doctor. And you can do all of those things, the implants, the Invisalign, and the sleep dentistry and all that kind of stuff. It's just difficult to implement all of it at once and have your team feel just as invigorated as you are. You
Yeah.
can easily overwhelm and overload your team by kind of adding in too many of these new services to focus on at once. And so I would definitely suggest that doctors just kind of take a step back and do one thing at a time and just focus on really getting the process from start to finish, from the patient acquisition all the way to the delivery, and just mapping out that whole process and making sure your whole team understands what their role is and how they're going to successfully do this for that particular patient segment, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah.
And the cool part about doing that is you're going to get better and faster at implementing the other services because you learn from implementing these processes every single time. And that's actually what's happened with us with driven dental implant marketing and our move to driven dental airway marketing. We learned so much about what does it take to attract and convert a high value patient with implants. We saw a lot of similarities with airway. Just some examples, they're both complex treatments. They both have long decision timelines. There's a lot of back and forth that needs to happen with, either sometimes a specialist on the implant side. Here we got to deal with medical providers and get the different things. So there's some other coordination that needs to happen, and then ultimately just delivering the treatment and figuring out how patients are going to pay for this stuff, whether it's insurance or financing. there's complex processes that need to be installed there. So we took everything we learned from implants and were able to successfully translate that into airway. And that helped us get much successful in airway a lot faster because we did it with implants already. You'll see the same thing with your practices. As you focus on doing the implants, the skills you learned from implementing this process going to give you the ability to add in the other things later.
Yeah, implants and air. It's so complex and there's so much going on that, you made a good point there. And I'm doing it again because when I first became a practice owner, I was like shot out of a cannon and I wanted to make all these changes, now, and I wanted to do everything now, but it was too overwhelming for the staff. And I got a lot of pushback and it just wasn't the right way of doing it. So I think that's a great point for dentists, that you mentioned to kind of focus on one thing, master it, move on to the next. Cause I'm doing it again. And I'm like, Blocky, don't do it. Don't do it. Because now I'm adding clear liners. And then I wanted to add sleep right away. And I had to, hold back and pump the brakes a little bit. So, I'm going to try to focus on the clear liners and then do the sleep once we've mastered it. But like you said, mastering the clear liners and the verbiage and the tracking and that's going to help me later on when I do implement the sleep. So I think that was a really good point you made. And sometimes you just got to pump the brakes, add one modality at a time, master it. Better for you, better the staff. Okay, I got to ask you a question here.
Yeah.
What is the dirty secret in implant marketing?
That's funny. Implant definitely has a dirty secret. I mean, the reps come in and all these, implant companies, when doctors are first starting, they're all gung ho about the marketplace opportunity. There's millions of patients out there with missing teeth. And if you just had a small little portion of them, you could, make a fortune with implants. And it's going to be so easy to grow your practice with dental implants. Well, once we actually start marketing and we start, seeing what it takes to be successful, you learn that right away. That's not necessarily the case. It's not that easy. The
Mm-hmm.
biggest dirty secret about implants is, and it's not really a secret, is that most of the patients that need this the most also have some type of income or credit challenge that's going to keep them from saying yes. They want it. There's absolutely a ton of marketplace demand for implants. Of course, nobody wants to walk around with holes in their mouth or having a smile that they're embarrassed about or is not functional or they can't eat the foods they want. Of course, they're going to want this when we put an ad in front of them that says, fix your smile. That conversation takes a very different turn when we tell them that costs $50,000 or
Yeah.
25 or 10 or 15. We've got to have a plan to get them over that cost barrier. And the real challenge, the dirty secret, is the marketplace is problem aware, but they're not so much solution aware in that they understand the true cost of what it takes to get to the smile that they want. And that's our job as dental
Yep.
professionals, to educate the marketplace and help them understand what it takes. And then those who can meet that criteria, we're going to guide them along the way. So that's the dirty secret. There's a second part to that, which is that means some patients are just going to get left behind because the truth be told, they just don't have the means to say yes. And that can be a tough thing to handle, especially for those team members and doctors that are really focused on making an impact in patient lives. It can be really tough to turn someone away when you actually have the ability to solve the problem for them, but they just can't afford the solution. And so doctors got to be ready for that conversation. And I also think that we need to stop looking at implants as a product to sell. I see a lot of doctors, get really excited about marketing and they just want to sell the treatment. So they have the opportunity to really, show off their skills and do the stuff they spent so much money investing and learning in, and put that to work. But that's not how patients make the decision. We've got to look at this as a solution to a problem, and the solution has to be right for the patient. So being open to non-implant solutions, even if it's not the best clinical outcome, I think is going to give doctors more of a chance to be successful there. So there's a lot of mindset things that are really part of the implant marketing that are not spoken when we first get into it. And I think that's the biggest dirty secret, that there's a lot of hidden barriers and things that can keep you from being successful.
So what would you say, in your experience, what does it really take to successfully grow an implant focused practice?
I would say commitment, number one. Commit to the outcome that you're looking for, whatever that vision is that you spent some time mapping out. Just know that there's going to be challenges and barriers to get there, but just make the commitment to get through all of that stuff. To have the understanding that that's going to take time, because it's not just you that is part of the solution. Yes, you're bringing your clinical skill. Yes, you've invested in all the equipment and the technology and stuff that you need to be able to deliver the treatment, but you also got to get your team on board. They've got to
Yep.
have all the skills and understand the process. And then we've got to compete in a competitive marketplace and get our message out there and let all the patients that could be, candidates for us know that we're out there, and we got to get them into our practice so we can have conversations. So we got to solve those marketing challenges and those process challenges as well. That's going to take time. So this isn't something that's going to get turned on, with a flip of a switch. However, you can shorten that curve by selecting the right partner who's done it before and there's systems in place. So it's definitely possible. But I think coming into this with realistic expectations is probably one of the best things doctors can do to set themselves up for success.
Yeah, getting that mindset, but also I'm imagining that like the SEO and the targeting of gathering, getting new patients doesn't happen overnight. Is it a process with SEO and Google and the marketing campaigns, and actually getting the patients in the door?
100%. I mean, there's many ways to reach out to the marketplace, and there's some that are fast, and there's some that grow over time. So typically, the doctors that are really committed to this are going to have a mix of approaches to the marketplace in order to attract patients. SEO is one of them. We use paid traffic, so we go after patients who are actively searching on Google, which is different than SEO. SEO is more of an organic approach. It's about building an online presence that Google sees as an authority. So when patients type in these things, you're showing up in the organic section or the free section of the search results. That takes a lot of time to build the links and give Google the sense of credibility for your brand that's necessary to get that, 3 to 6 months before you really can start to see a measurable impact from that. However, ads, how Google makes its money, you can instantly be right at the top if you're willing to pay for it. And it is worth paying for it if you're targeting the right audience and you've got the right message. We can definitely help with that. But if you think about it, we know 3 things about patients that are actually searching for implants online. One, they have the dental need that we can solve. They are missing teeth and they're motivated to solve it. That's the second thing. We know they're motivated because they're actually searching for a solution. And 3, we also know they're a little bit educated about implants. At least they know that they potentially could be a solution because they're specifically typing in search queries about implants. How much do implants cost in my city? Who's the best implant dentist near me? What's an all-in-4? How much does all-in-4 cost? These are all signals that this is an ideal candidate. And if you're going to spend marketing dollars, putting your message in front of them is a great move. And that's exactly what Google Ads does. So that's a primary channel for us. And it's instant. As soon as that campaign goes up, you can start to generate leads or conversations with patients right away.
Awesome. How did you come up with this company? What was your your story and your journey? How you got involved in dentistry and driven dental?
Yeah, well, cool. Well, so I started out as a freelance marketer, and I saw myself as kind of the person that would help dental practices, private practices, just kind of get their marketing in order. And I would go in and really just assess, what were they doing? I was trying to answer the question, where's the most effective place to spend our marketing dollars? That's a common question a lot of private practices have. And so my first goal was to just track everything. So I would come in and we would put unique tracking phone numbers on every different marketing channel: billboards, magazines, direct mail, radio, TV. Those are all the offline channels. Then we started playing around with online stuff, Google, Facebook, social media marketing, SEO. We tracked everything to the best of our ability. What we found was that the digital marketing gave us the best return on our investment, and it was also gave us the most control. And if you think about that, that's, we could turn it on and off as needed. We could tweak the messages as needed. And we got instant feedback from the marketplace that was telling us what was working and what was not. So if you wanted to market with the lowest risk, digital marketing is definitely the best place to put your money. And we discovered that. And now the next question was, all right, well, how can we get the most for our marketing dollars? What we found also was that attracting a patient digitally, kind of costs about the same or relatively same to attract a regular new patient that might just be ready for an exam and a cleaning versus somebody who's looking for a much higher value service if we were targeting the right types of patients. So we started to look into the high value patients, whether it was cosmetic dentistry or, we were doing Invisalign campaigns, and we started doing implants. And what we quickly realized is that these implant cases can be a game changer. Just one or two patients can match the whole rest of your month's production, especially if you're doing like, full arch cases and that kind of stuff. So that made sense. Well, why not go after the patients that are going to have the biggest impact? So we started to focus on implants, and that's where driven dental implant marketing was born. I didn't come up with this on my own. I mean, I was introduced to dentistry through my wife, who was a dentist in Brazil, and we met a long time ago. I think it's 15, 17 years now. And our careers have followed a parallel path. She became an assistant. She was a dental hygienist. We went back to dental school together, and now she's practicing in private practice. And I've vicariously had to, have her experiences from her offices, every day. So I feel like through her, I really have a good sense of what happens in a dental practice and all the challenges that doctors and all their team members face. And then most of our team that, as we've grown, have come from the dental industry. So I would say we're very intimately connected to the dental industry.
Yeah, you had a really good point there about tracking. If you don't track your marketing campaigns, then how do you know what's working and what isn't, and how to pivot? So that's so important to track. And you said digital marketing is, I guess, an efficient and affordable, an effective way of marketing. But it sounds like it's probably one of the better forms to track. Correct?
Yes, it's so much easier to track digital marketing. I mean, we could track whatever you want to track. You could track, how much, patients are reading a particular page. How far do they scroll down? You can create all kind of heat maps. Like if you want to learn about a marketing message and its impact, in the marketplace, digital marketing gives you everything that you need to know. And It's from that we've actually developed our best practices and why we're so confident in launching that we know how to communicate with patients searching specifically for implants. So that's it's been really cool. I think actually that's one of the things that sets driven dental implant marketing apart is I would confidently say that we understand the dental implant patient better than any of our competitors, just because we've been studying that consumer behavior and this particular decision for so long. No one knows it better than us. And so we can definitely help you find patients that are ready right now to say yes to treatment.
And that's the key, is getting them to say yes and, getting them to move forward. So Charles, thank you so much for joining us. That was a very informative episode. Again, Charles Biami, he's the co-owner and chief marketing officer of Driven Dental Marketing. And you can go to Deals for Dentists and you can schedule a free strategy session and you get a $500 credit off your first month. So Charles, thanks so much for joining us. That was great.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Definitely looking forward to anybody who wants to have a conversation about, what does it take to grow your practice? You get a lot out of the strategy call. I can look at competition. I can help you dissect any internal challenges and definitely give you a lot more clarity about what does it take from a marketing perspective to attract the type of patients that you want. And then I can tell you how we can help you implement this plan, but at the very least, you're going to come away from the conversation with a lot more clarity about how you should approach going forward and what are the decision criteria to choose the right partner if this is something you're serious about.
Yeah. And, like I said earlier, adding these high value procedures is such a great way. It's such a practice builder and great way to really enjoy going into the office every day. But like you said, you got to have a plan. So,
yeah.
All right, Charles, let's be in touch. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.